What are some of the things that you can be doing before your event, and not only your connection experiences, but in the future, during and after your event. So following Sergio's lead, start with why. Really, friends, especially if we've been doing the work for years, ask yourself, why am I hosting this event? Is it to get money? Great, that's fair. Is it for visibility? Great, that's fair. Is it to build community? Great. Everything is fair, but it is very important for you to understand why you're hosting it, because depending on your why, then you can go and think about what is the best way for you to do it. Who are you going to invite to your event? And most importantly for us, smaller businesses and organizations, how much time and energy are we going to spend on it, right? If it's going to be a fundraising event, not your whole team needs to be there. You need to have the people who are best at talking about your organization, building community with the people that are showing up, etc. So it's not only a matter of thinking of your participants, but also thinking of your team and your own energy before you host an event. So ground yourself in the why. Once you do that, then yes, create the agenda, and also share your agenda. Because it's not only a way in which you're being mindful of people's time, but it's also an accessibility aspect that you can consider. Some of us learn with visuals, some of us learn by listening, some of us learn by reading and staying quiet. So when you provide the agenda, you are telling people this is what we will offer you, and then people will have the opportunity to choose what they want to focus their energy in. For example, we did that today, right? We're going to talk about accessibility. We're going to talk about marketing. We're going to talk about facilitation. So it allows you, the audience, to know what's going to happen and prepare yourself for the next 90 minutes. And then when you share that, right, hopefully you will share it before the event, if helpful. If not, do it at the beginning of the event. Because of those two reasons, but also try to picture yourself. I don't know if any of you is fan of Halloween, but it's like being invited to a costume party without anybody telling you it's going to be a costume party. So then there you are with your very nice jeans and shirt, and everybody's dressed like Harry Potter. Your outfit could be super cool, but you're just out of place, right? So it is like a funny example, but that's how people could feel, especially when we're going to have difficult conversations. And I did that for you today. When I said, Mark is a great colleague of mine who's deaf. If I wouldn't have said that, many of you would have been uncomfortable, right? Because unfortunately, that is not normal to many of us just yet. So I modeled it for you. I prepared you for it. So then when he came to the screen, you were ready for it. You were curious. You were thirsty to see what was going to happen. So preparing your participant is a very respectful thing for you to do for your audience. But then being grounded in your why, our purpose of today was modeling certain things for you. So we are okay with everything that's happening in this 90 minutes because that's the purpose, for you to get whatever you think you could get out of today. So once you've prepped your participants and the things that are not in your control are out there, right? Everybody has an agenda, they're ready, they know when, where, how to show up. You do need to get ready for the logistics. And everything that you want to consider, right? Location, is it accessible? Who's your audience? Are they going to have everything that they need in terms of food, drinks, the space? All of these things, I know many of you have considered them in the past, and I promise you that you will find a lot of resources about it. So what I want to focus on today is, within those logistics, identify roles for your team. I said it last time, right? Luisana today is backstage working on logistics. Andreina is observing, making sure that you're all good. Me, I'm facilitating. Dina and Brittany, they're our interpreters for the day. So we are clear on those roles, not only so that it goes smoothly, but also so that you can be present, right? You've made all these efforts to bring people to your space. So establishing the roles allows you to play the role that you're supposed to play. If I'm supposed to be looking at the chat and then also looking at the facilitators and then seeing if their interpreters are all set, like my mind is going to go to a million different places instead of being here with you, looking at your virtual eyes, Allison, Dre, Tori, and seeing what your reactions are being to what I'm supposed to do here today. So prepare those roles for your team. And then if once we have those logistics, the roles, we understand our why, the day is here, right? And we open our doors or we open our Zooms and we're ready to go. We try to always remind ourselves with the team, literally we met half an hour before, what are our roles for today? How are we going to go about it? So again, we ground ourselves in what is our identity, what are we modeling, how are we going to divide and conquer? So remember to do that. And then I think this is the biggest tip that I can give you before you go into an event, whether that is your gala, whether this is the 10 days of connection experience, for you to always, literally like 3 minutes before the event, if you can, if you're facilitating, to remind yourself two things. What is my objective for today? And secondly, Mark, I promise you this is like if we would have practiced together. How do you want people to feel at the end of it? I'm going to repeat it. What is your objective? Meaning, what do you want to accomplish? And secondly, how do you want people to feel? Because sometimes things will go the other way we want them to go. So it allows you to always be grounded in that, because once you're grounded in that, you will know what to do. You will know how to make the decisions quickly, right? Like if the food didn't arrive, do you want people to see all your team like running around because the croissants aren't there? No. You want someone from your team to be doing that. And then you still want your participants to feel welcome, to feel like everything is okay. And even recognizing the mistake would be a good practice for you to do there. I'm not going to tell you what to do when that moment comes, but if you're grounded in those two things, I promise you that you will be able to stay calm and to be able to redirect the conversation or the event for it to go that way. So when we ground ourselves in the 10 days of connection, people might get angry. Maybe less people showed up. Maybe more people showed up. So if you take 2 minutes to pause and think, what is my objective for today? Is it for them to learn about mental health? Is it for them to have awareness about certain things? Is it for them to then feel curious and craving to learn more about X, Y, and Z topic? You can do that, even though your agenda might need to shift. So that's the second one. The third one that I can give you at the event is, for you to be an outstanding facilitator, you have to acknowledge people. And there are different ways in which you can do that. I myself, I have to confess that I'm very good with faces. So when I see at all of you and I see that we have 30 people on the call, I know that everybody went already and shared except for Carrie and Vicky, because they had technical difficulties. To me, it's easy. For some people, that's very difficult, especially if you're nervous about public speaking, etc. So you can have Post-its next to you and you could write it down. If you want 30 people to go, you could be like, okay, 1, 2, 3, and then establish processes for you to remember who needs to go next. But that is when you want people to talk. The other way, especially if we're doing in physical or like in present events, name tags are great, right? Because then you don't have to remember people's names. You're seeing it there. And even the name tag, you could make it in a way that the name tag will give you, the facilitator, the information that you need from people, right? So I could ask, name the organization as well, but what are you passionate about? So then if Luisana says that she's passionate about manatees, I don't know what that came to mind, I would say like, Lou, what is it that you love about manatees? Tell me more about it, right? So I have everything I need in that name tag. If it's a Zoom call, I can ask people to have everything I need as a facilitator in the names here. Or in the chat, right? The way when I asked you about telling me what you had for lunch is a way of me getting to know you better, right? So I know who loves coffee, I know who drinks water, and it allows me to then acknowledge you and recognize you as a human throughout the conversation. So name tags is key, or the names are key. Eye contact is definitely important. Sharing personal anecdotes if you can along the way. So Carrie, for example, she's here. She had technical difficulties. And the reason why I made it look so smooth is because I know her. I have a personal anecdote to tell about her, and I can tell you more about Carrie. So instead of me going like, oh no, so her mic is not working, what can I do? I find a way in which I acknowledge her. I tell her, Carrie, I see you, I hear you, but I cannot keep waiting for you right now, right? So even though that was a hard moment, I hope, Carrie, that you feel seen. And the way you nod your face, it will give me a hint. Okay, you already blinked, so I know that she feels seen, right? Just by me doing that, right? And then the last tip that I already give you is like, how do I write things down for yourself as a facilitator? If you're on the computer, you could use your Post-its here. You can have cheat sheets for yourself. The other one during the event is purposely carve moments to pause or reflect. Again, thinking of your participants, how do you give breaks like the one that I just gave you 2 minutes ago? But also it gives you time to pause and refresh, but it also gives me time to assess with my team. How are things going? How are we doing on time? Do we need to redirect, right? So if you purposely carve that out, you leave room for the uncertainty. You leave room to change plans in the middle of it, instead of us freaking out if you have a 2-hour agenda on what to do. And the last one is for you to remember that you are a facilitator all the way at the end when it comes to virtual events, all the way when the Zoom is gone for everybody. But if it's something that you're hosting in presence, for you to remember that even though the speakers are done, you're still facilitating, you're still that person. So to give a concrete example, with an initiative that we have to talk about failure stories, we usually have the agenda and then we invite people to stay for an after party. It feels very casual. People are drinking their own thing. We're there having conversations, etc. But I personally never forget that that's still being recorded, that people are still seeing me with my hat on from that organization. It doesn't mean I cannot be authentic, but then if I go like, oh, good, like I'm done. If I would do that now at 3:30, I'm like, I'm so glad the 90 minutes are over. Everything we said in the previous 90 minutes, you will forget. You will just remember that I was relieved and happy that this was over, right? So until the last person of you leaves, I will be whatever I want to be, and the way I want you to see it, see me. And then the last thing is that your facilitation doesn't stop when the event ends. You can continue to be a great facilitator, moderator, and convener after. Again, you can reflect about how the event went, and you can follow up with people. Either if it was great and then people presented, for example, with Mark and Sergio, we will follow up with a thank you, right? And telling them why it was helpful. There's no call to action for them there. I just want to say thanks. So we keep doing that. But if at some point something didn't go the way I wanted it to go, and it could happen during a 10 days of connection event, that someone didn't feel seen, that someone left very upset, you can follow up, or you should follow up in all honesty with that. Can I do something else for you? Or look, I found this resource that reminded me of you. You continue facilitating that moment and that event after the event is over. And I think that is all I have for you, my friends.